Right off the bat, make sure you save yourself a little bit more money on all of these. It's 10% off over at switchup.gg, where you can buy your eShop credit at 10% off. You get 5% instant and 5% back in coins. All you have to do is use code SwitchUp when you check out, and we get a little kickback from Nintendo. Everyone enjoys a special. Or at least I do. Maybe I am special. But this week we've got a bit of a theme. It's a JRPG and adventure special. Then we've got our Savaloy selection and the return of our indie spotlight, where we look at a small indie developer and a game they've got on sale. Alright, what are the best games on sale, in my opinion at least, this week? There are lots of good ones, so feel free to add yours into the comments. And congratulations to the winner of the free game. This is you. Now, let's find out.
Well, you know you're making your way up the YouTube ladder when you are asked to make an advert for Raid Shadow Legends, and that's exactly what's happened today, so thank you very much to Raid for sponsoring this episode. This is of course one of the best known mobile games of all time. It has a huge number of champions available, each with their own factions, and all containing their own history and lore. It's this side of the game that I enjoy the most, the variety in the champions, and I'm now going to list some of the ones that I find the most favourable when playing and just tell you a little bit about them. I've always enjoyed using status effects in combat during games, so someone like Robart is ideal for me, whose ability to hit enemies who are under some sort of status ailment, such as sleep or stun, harder than usual is a great skill. By the same token, I always find it frustrating when an enemy has a lot of buffs, so someone like Elgar Skarg is ideal for me, as his speciality is to chip away at enemies that have exactly that. He takes less damage from legendary champions, and he can hit with a number of debuff skills himself to really damage the opposition. If you are new to Raid, you can get your hands on Stag Knight, one of the best champions around, as well as a skin for Stag Knight designed by Jontron. Just use the promo code JTSkin before October the 7th. If you are not a new player, don't worry, you can still get Stag Knight and that skin for an in-game event. And to continue the theme of free stuff, there's also the ability to get the legendary champion Sun Wukong, Raid's take on the Monkeykin from Japanese mythology, and to do so, all you need to do is log in on 7 different days between now and October the 23rd. So all you need to do is log in basically, and you can get that great champion for free. With that in mind, there has never been a better time to jump into Raid if you haven't done so already, and you can use my link in the description or scan my QR code to get even more bonuses. These include Epic Champion Drake and other useful things such as energy refills, skill tomes and an XP booster. Again, just hit my link in the description and I will see you on the battlefield.
Kicking things off, we've got Chrono Cross, the Radical Dreamers edition. I don't know about you, but I never actually played this back in the day. And you hear all these things, don't you, about how good a game is and how it still holds up and things like that. And look, I'm not going to be picking something up like this for the graphics. It's just not going to happen. Although they have remodeled some of the 3D characters and changed some of the music in terms of the quality, it's essentially the same game that you got before. And I'm fine with that. Now, what I didn't realise going into this, that there's like 40 different party members. And I always like it when you can switch between the old version of the game and the new, in air quotes, version. It's been pretty sweet, hasn't it, seeing games like Sea of Stars come to Switch that clearly take inspiration from a lot of these oldies, but then being able to play some of these for the first time when they go on sale and realising that, yeah, actually these still hold up, they're still very enjoyable JRPGs and adventures. This one only takes up 4.2 gigs, so it's not too chunky, and that sale goes on till September the 25th. It brings a smile to my face to recommend Ghost Runner. It's 70% off until September the 25th, and if you remember when it launched, it was abysmal. Like, I don't know if you can find some footage of when it first came out, Jared, but my goodness did it look appalling. It was such a shame because I loved it on PC, and then I picked it up on Switch. It was like, oh, come on now. But since then, and let's be honest, with a lot of poking and prodding, shall we say, from the community, the developers actually have been back to it so many times, and then in the most recent update, it genuinely looks leaps and bounds better than it did at launch. So much so that I now recommend it whenever it goes on sale, because you kind of want to say it was worth it, you know, it was worth it for them, and it's definitely worth it for you. Now, I know I haven't said anything about the actual game. Imagine a cyberpunk katana-wielding ninja who has to parkour his way through levels, one-shotting enemies with that sword and deflecting bullets with his trusty blade. That's essentially the game in a nutshell. Each area is almost an encapsulated stage, but it forms a part of a whole. It's really good. I think there's a physical of this as well if you're a physical collector. It's 11.2 gigs, and I'm pretty sure that some of the DLC is also on sale on the Switch version, so if you bought the game at the start, yeah, might be worth picking up some of those DLCs for a nice cheap price. As I say, that sale for for Ghost Runner goes on until September 25th. All the Bloodstained games are on sale at the moment, but I do have a soft spot for Ritual of the Night. Now, yeah, it's another, as so many of these will be, where performance was an issue at launch, and it's still not perfect, but I think the game's absolutely excellent. This is the cheapest it's ever been. It's 70% off, down to £10.49, and it describes itself as a gothic horror action side-scrolling RPG set in 18th century England, where a paranormal force has summoned a demon-infested castle. Yeah, forget all that nonsense. It's a classic Metroidvania. You're moving around, fighting different bosses that are quite challenging. There are lots of checkpoints that you can stop and rest at, and you play as Miriam, who, let's be honest, she doesn't sound the most threatening individual. She is damn good with a blade, and she received a curse when she was younger, but I think it was from an alchemist. So you're trying to fight your way through this place to eventually defeat that person. Now, at the moment, that one is down to, as I say, its cheapest ever price until September the 25th. But again, it's one that has a physical, and you can very often find the physical quite cheap. Not maybe all the way down to 10 quid. But yeah, check out Amazon, check out base.com. You may well be able to pick it up from there. You're looking at around 20 to 30 hours, but easily more than that. As with these games, lots of secret areas and things to find. One of the little gems on Switch, and my pickup for the week, my personal pickup, as if I needed another one, is a game called Toem. Now, I saw this on Deku Deals and was like, ooh, I've heard of that. It looks quite nice. 4 quid. Yes, please, I shall have that. So I swiftly added it to my ever-growing backlog, had a little play of it, and was like, yeah, this is quite nice. I like this. Firstly, the art style is absolutely delightful. It's like a monochromatic, isometric adventure. That was a tongue twister. It's got quite a chill vibe to it as well. You like going around taking photos and using those to solve the puzzles in the game. And there's an unusual bunch of different characters that you meet as well. It has that true indie feel to it, this one. And I think the developer may have self-published. So, I mean, this is like 2 for the indie dev spotlight, really. It's only short, about 4 or 5 hours. Nice little weekend pickup, which isn't going to help you now because it's Sunday. But yeah, really good. 523 megs, usually about 16 quid, down to the bargain price of £4.85. Be bloody lightful. Now, I'm putting this one in at the bequest. Bequest? Is that a real word? That's not a word, is it? The request. What's bequest? Bequeath. Oh my goodness, you know what I'm saying. I'm putting this one in because my son told me to. It's Spyro Reignited Trilogy, which can be the kids' pick of the week. Unfortunately, it is EU and AU only, but it's 60% off. And it's one of those where, as adults, we kind of look at it and go, yeah, that does look better than when I was a kid. But it doesn't really matter. When you actually hand it to a younger person, they're just besotted with it. Now, you've essentially got 3 games all into one, as the title clearly suggests. And this was one of the first good uses of the Unreal 4 engine on Switch. You don't just play as Spyro, you get to play as Hunter, Shayla, Agent 9, and a couple of other characters, and there are more than 100 levels in this pack. The thing for me with Spyro is just the way the character moves. I absolutely love it, it's great, and then being able to glide around. Man, I need to go back to this one. It's 15 gigs, about 30 to 35 hours of content. So yeah, that can be our kids' pick of the week, but adults, you will have a right blast if you like this style of game. That sale in the EU and the AU regions goes on until September the 24th. Another one that I haven't seen pop up on sale in quite a while, and certainly not this cheap, is Actraiser Renaissance. Now, Actraiser was a game from way back in the day that saw Square bring it back with this updated version, and Glen was a huge Actraiser fan and did the full review for us on the channel. And it has an unusual combination of 2D platforming action with city building sim sections that was known as the Realm Management. Now, the soundtrack is composed by Yuzo Koshiro and has been fully remastered here, but they added in some new musical tracks, they added in new story segments. It's just a bigger, better version of that classic. Now, hopefully we can pop a little card up in the corner so that you can go and check out the full review after this video, because I think this, or at least Glen's review, will win you over on this one. It's half price, down to £12.49, and that goes on until September 25th. Alright, our next big RPG is World of Final Fantasy Maxima. Now, there's a guy on this channel called Sabrewulf, and I'm pretty sure it was him who first got me into this one. I remember a comment from literal years ago, where he was like, we were talking about it, and there were elements that he really liked, and there were some things he didn't like, but overall I think he had a positive takeaway about it. And I ended up spending a lot more time with it and really enjoying it. It is quite a stunning looking game, really, and it combines some almost Pokemon style elements with the Final Fantasy universe, which is really quite unusual. Now, I think the thing that will put some people off, or maybe not, I don't know, but that chibi art style won't appeal to everyone. And those capturable monsters, which are known as mirages, do add a certain charm to it, I must say. Particularly as, this week I've been playing through the DLC of Pokemon for a review, so hopefully you'll have that sometime early. Well, it might be tomorrow, to be honest. But, you know, you look at these games that came out, well, this first came out in 2016, and it looks stunning, in my opinion, comparative to some of the more modern games. Now, it's 10.7 gigs, easily 50 to 100 hours of gameplay, and at just $13.99, not too bad at all. That sale goes on until September the 25th. Doraemon Story of Seasons is 84% off at the moment, which means it's its cheapest ever price, down to £7, £7.19 to be precise. And if you like Doraemon, so if you've watched the anime, then I think that will add a certain something to the experience for you. I, for whatever reason, really got into it with my kid, and I love Story of Seasons, so it's a nice amalgamation of the two ideas. Now, if you don't like either of those things, then, well, you better skip to the next section, to be honest. But it's a fun farming sim that combines, and I have to say, it can be a bit slow. Like at the start, it was very slow, and then you gradually, as these games always are, you gradually build up your farm and get it to the state that you want it in, as well as exploring that town and going on adventures. It just kind of gets its hooks into you. But yeah, completely lost my train of thought there. I literally cut myself off. But if you're interested in that, there is a physical as well. So yeah, always advocating for the physicals where possible, at least until we find out exactly what is happening with the Switch 2 and whether or not it'll be backwards compatible. It's funny, isn't it? Because Nintendo could almost like significantly boost sales, I think, across the Switch by just saying, yeah, the next console is backwards compatible, so keep buying. But yeah, I digress. That sale goes on until September the 30th. One of my favourites, in fact the second favourite Final Fantasy game for me, other than Final Fantasy VIII, I know. Well, Final Fantasy VII, obviously, that kind of goes without saying, but then 8, like, massively underrated. And then there's this hardcore of us who think it's amazing and had the crystal case with the 4 discs. I know who you are. But then there was Final Fantasy XII, which I never got to play, and then only really got to experience it fully on Switch, and was like, man, why did I never play this all those years ago? I was probably trying to be social, but failing miserably, to be honest. But this again is the HD remaster of the 12th installment in the Final Fantasy series, and it's set 2 years after a war has finished, and everyone in this universe is still kind of coming to terms with that. And visually, I think this really does still hold up quite well. I believe they re-recorded all of the background music using live performances, and then there's 5.1 surround sound here as well, which when I first played this I didn't actually realise, but now that I've got one of those sound bars and stuck it behind me, I'm like, oh yeah, surround sound's actually pretty good. You should do that, by the way. A lot of those Bluetooth sound bars will connect to your TV and they'll create surround sound, which is, I never knew. The TV was like, do you want to connect to that? I was like, yes please. Next thing you know, I actually had a decent sound system. Anyway, how do I get on these tangents? Final Fantasy XII is excellent, and if you haven't played it, you should. It's 12.6 gigs, about 60 to 100 hours if you want to do everything, but you could blast through it in about 40, and that sale goes on until September the 25th. Okay, last JRPG before we look at some Savaloys or Vedcooks. And it's one that, it's funny, isn't it? Sometimes you play a game and it's only after the fact that you really realise how much you loved it. So you can be playing it and thinking, yeah, this is alright, it's good, I'm enjoying myself. A few years down the line, you have memories of it and you're like, oh, okay. And for me, I Am Setsuna is a much better game than the vast majority of people gave it credit for when it first launched. I think there were certain things that, you know, Square did that we were like, doesn't put a good flavour in your mouth. Like they created something called the Tokyo RPG Factory. I don't think that translates very well to Western audience. You know, you can see it kind of sounds like they're just pumping these things out. But this series, I Am Setsuna, is part of a trilogy, isn't it? I think it's a really good. Yeah, you've got this, is it Lost Sphere? And then, I forgot the name of the third one. But it's 60% off, very old school. Starts out in this really frozen, like tundra, with a really clear premise. And I think, again, that's something that a lot of RPGs fail at. They don't give you something that you care about. But this is like, oh wow, okay, that's a horrible scenario that they're in. Let's see how this one plays out. Now that's down to $11.99, matches its cheapest ever, and that's until September 25th. So that takes us on to our Savaloy selection then. A series of games that are less than £2.50 here in the UK, or hopefully your regional equivalent if they're available in your region. If you've made it this far into the video and you've not purchased anything, this is generally where things get a bit dangerous, so good luck. First up, we've got Sagebrush, which is just £1.19, that's 80% off, the cheapest it's ever been. And this is so cool. It's like a 3D PlayStation style adventure game. And they took inspiration from a lot of, the world's seen some really bad cults, hasn't it? And things like that, and some horrible things that have gone on. And this is kind of based on those and highlights the kinds of terrifying behaviors that can, I don't know, influence people into getting into these things. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want to spoil it, but it is a short little adventure, around 2 to 3 hours, that has very thick atmosphere that's actually quite unnerving without being scary. Now that's only 392 megs, just over £1. well worth picking up. You've got Islanders, which I've mentioned before, which is like a lo-fi chill strategy game. You can have a certain amount of points to spend. You place your houses and things where you want them, and then their proximity to each other affects your point score, boosts that up, and then you unlock more and more. You end up covering the island in houses and things. It's just super chill, and then you unlock the next one. Really simplistic. That was 55% off. It was already cheap anyway, but it's £2.02, or your regional equivalent. Then Brother A Tale of Two Sons is 80% off. This, you can have 2 controllers, or I believe you can just use a joycon each to control it. I think I first completed this on iOS, but don't let that put you off. It's a great little story, quite emotive, will make you sad, but also make you happy because you're cooperatively playing with someone, hopefully. I wouldn't recommend this one solo. It's a bit lame, isn't it, when you kind of got to walk to one place, switch character, move them, give them a boost. It really does work better with 2 of you. Then Inside and Limbo, I'm sticking those together because you can pick them both up for £2.48 together because they're 98% off each. Don't really need to tell you a great deal about them. Side-scrolling adventures, but with a real atmosphere to them, using that monochromatic style, and stupidly good value for that price until October the 1st. So those, my friends, are our Savaloys. Now we have our indie spotlight game, and that is going to go to a little known title called Actraiser, which was developed by Olivier Derop. Hopefully I'm saying his name right, and if I'm not, I apologise profusely. But I'd never heard of Actraiser, and I'm a huge adventure game fan, so as soon as I saw it, I was like, let's check this little bad boy out. 2 games is as good as 1 in the backlog, and yeah, nice world design, nice kind of dark, noir, interesting atmosphere, puzzles that weren't too difficult, but they also weren't too ridiculous, quite lateral thinking. And yeah, if you're an adventure fan, then this little one by Olivier, yeah, worth adding to your collection, and it's always nice to have a new one for the indie spotlight. What I will say is the soundtrack is good enough here that I would potentially consider picking that up. I think you can actually buy that on the eShop as well. Post-apocalypse and robots ruling the world. What more could you want? Thanks so much to Raid for sponsoring this one. It's those little sponsorships that keep us going. Don't forget to use our Raid Shadow Legends link in the description, or you can scan that QR code to get some tasty bonuses for new players with an epic champion. And clicking that link obviously really helps us out. So that is it for this week. As I said at the start, don't buy any of these games without saving yourself 10% on your eShop credit by using code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg. It gives us a tiny little kickback from Nintendo and it saves you money. So yeah, hopefully, and as long as it's in your region. There are some regions like Canada, for whatever reason, they will not let us go into your country. So I do apologise profusely to those people. For everyone else, thanks so much, and well, thanks to you as well. For all things Switch, all the time, have a lovely Monday. Keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!